Hello there, Frantz Kantor here again, and I'm going to do another caricature. This time I'm going to be continuing on with a series that I started with before. Just adjusting this for a second. That's better. Here we go. All right, so just work out some little bit of information about him, visual information about the subject. This is the guy that I'm doing. Yes, Curly. Let's see if we can get a better shot of him. There we go. There we go. That's Curly Howard. It's actually one of the three Stooges. I've drawn Shemp and Larry. I haven't gotten to Mo yet. So I'm just trying to work out a shape. Obviously, it's a cue ball or like a roundish shape. He's got a very round head. Very interesting character. You know, this is him without his curly appearance, and he looks entirely different. Looks a bit like a football player or something. So a very interesting guy, you know, but quite a range of expressions. I'll tell you a very interesting some traits about him as we go. So let's get started. I've just worked out a rough idea of where I'm going to go with the caricature, and I'm not sure if I've got his likeness down, but I'm going to have some fun with the drawing in any case, so just stay with me and we'll see what transpires. So the concept of drawing a caricature, of course, comes from simplification and exaggeration. You can't get any more simple than a circle. That's it. Shading wise, or actually we've got a light coming in from there. So shading wise is going to be favoured on the top right hand side of the illustration, and the shadows will fall down on the opposite side to the light. So that's quite nice. We can get some reflected highlights over on this side as well coming in. Now, usually we concentrate on the T-zone, which is the features comprising of the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, this sort of Mexican mask effect here, right? That's where you get the most recognition. So your time spent in those areas with the little details there will kind of pay off, more. However, this is quite an expressive shape. So it's really quite, I think, important to capture that as much as we can. Now, his head in the photograph is tilting a little bit, so I've kind of straightened that a little bit more. Again, I'm going to concentrate on this mask area, the T-zone. All right, so that's where I'm going to hit the highlights, hit the details, try to capture some recognition, some recognizable features and expression. So it's quite an extreme. He's a very interesting actor, and the difference between him and the other Stooges is that the other Stooges were really great performers, but he used to ad-lib. Curly would ad-lib, which the others would seldom do. They didn't really have that sort of ability, really. They wrote the sketches and they had writers working with them as well. But, basically they were they did an awful lot of planning, pre-planning and things. So they could time out the gags perfectly. Curly had a very unique ability of working off script. So he's somebody you could actually rely on to fill to really make the timing pay off in a really exciting way. It's completely unpredictable, of course, so it can be a little bit nerve-wracking, I guess, if the gags failed, but they'd seldom fail. His reactions were so perfect. If you look at some of the classic gags, I'm thinking of the soup gag where it would, you had the clam chowder or something and there's a clam in it and the clam's still alive. It's a very simple idea, simple joke, and I'm sure it's been it's done to death in certainly in the Stooges, but in many respects in other probably routines as well and appearances. That sort of gag is quite popular. But his reactions were incredibly powerful, really unique and childlike in their energy and expression. You know, he was more like the childish Stooge. So the others had they're funny and they're slapstick in their own way, but he brought this sort of childlike innocence, and I think people responded to that, and certainly women responded to that, and more than the others, because Mo was very unapproachable, I guess, as his character was very gruff and aggressive. Curly was the opposite. None of the other Stooges were aggressive. Mo was sort of like he was the slap in slapstick. That's Mo. He's very good at that, So he's, in a way, he's kind of the voice of Mo is sort of the voice of reason. And this guy is the voice of the inner child. How's that? Put it that way. That's a nice kind of expression. The inner child. He's the inner child. So enjoying the Stooges is in a way enjoying some elements of your childhood, because they're they're written that way, aren't they? They're delivered that way. They're delivered to the child, really, in all of us. And I found them really funny when I was a kid, and full of life and energy and goodwill. Nothing malicious about their humour at all. There wasn't anything really political or any bad taste overtones. It was just really fun, and Curly really epitomised that. He was like the real. He was the real McCoy. He was the legitimate escape valve, for the sense of fun. So, people loved him. People loved him the most. I was very close to Shemp, because Shemp had qualities that there's a bit of shine in here. I've got to be careful of I don't want to lose that, because that's important in this sort of stubble on his head. Shemp, I really liked Shemp's humour. In many ways it's very understated, but certainly less so than Curly. Curly was like the explosion of childhood innocence in a way, and in the Stooges. It was a lot of fun. He had some great gags, some great lines, and some of the gags they redid, like some of the Shemp gags they redid with Curly, and it just brought a different, totally different take on the gag, and you find yourself laughing at different things. Same gag, but different effect, slightly different effect. So, what's the power of the writer, or the power of the performer? What's the most powerful thing in the Stooges? Well, both, actually. They were beautifully written, but subject for reinterpretation, and they reinterpreted it their own way, with their own energy. and he did it. He did it really well. You know, he had some great catchphrases like "whoop whoop whoop" and "nyuk nyuk." You know, things like that. It's kind of gravitated into popular culture, of course. Probably most notably in the Ren and Stimpy show is Billy West did beautiful Larry impression, a Larry voice for Stimpy, the cat, but also had a bit of Curly in there as well. You know, that innocence, the stupidity, the stupid aspect. It's a really beautiful expressions that Curly had. Wish I had I was looking for a photograph that had something really iconic. You know, most of them have. There's surprisingly few photographs of lots of film. I didn't have time to research the film, but lots of film, but very few photographs. But the you know, I was after something really sort of iconic that I could remember, that had the ability to explain his energy and expression. You know, for the caricature. So caricature is a matter of getting, you know, big things, little things. Obviously, the head is the big thing because it's so pervasive. It's so strong in the images, in his persona. You know, it's that round bullet head that meant so much. I've got a bit of shine down here, so I want to catch that sort of ribbon of light. There's another highlight here and a side light coming in on the left, which we're going to get. So I'm just preparing for that. So yeah, we've got we've got this bottom lip that's saying, you know, and just before he goes into it's sort of like a part of a routine just before he goes into the nyuk, 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 nyuk. It's kind of the precursor to it. So faces are so incredibly powerful to tell us stories about the thoughts behind it, the energy, you know, the wrinkles and lines and things tell us so much about the face. What's the story of the face, you know? This story is obviously completely exaggerated for effect. It's a very powerful effect. I mean, you couldn't really want for a better subject than Curly for a routine, you know, for a comedy routine. It was really full on. And we're so lucky to have him in the... you can watch it now on YouTube and really get excited and impressed by his effervescent personality, his childish innocence and goodwill, you know. Really cool subject, really cool subject. I'm very, very lucky to be able to draw him. So I'm doing these little ribbon things to hold their names a little bit. I kind of like this. I just play with it, you know. Little cartoony elements that they make my life worth living. Yes, sir. Kind of fun. So this is my happy trees, guys. I don't do happy clouds or happy trees. This is my happy trees. I have happy cartoons and happy things, happy faces and stuff like that. The other thing I was going to do is put in a word balloon here. We'll fix it up, don't worry about that. So, I'm just going to have him say Coitanly, which is one of his catchphrases. I thought Nyuk, Nyuk, Nyuk would be too easy. Coitanly. There you go. Let's hit it with some black. Let's get some details into the eyes. I love his shapes. You know, within this round, beautiful orange, this fantastic overall shape. There's quite a lot of variety in inside. He's got some beautiful blue eyes, which we need to capture. Even though we're not using blue, we need to sort of reconcile the tones a little bit, I think, to make that work better for us. We'll try that. Let's see if we can do that a little bit here. That might work. Got to put in a highlight so that we can refer back to it. So I like to sort of keep that drama happening quick, if we can at all. You know, maybe helps establish some ground rules before we go with the rest of the tones. That'll do for now. Come back and add more. Just wanted a little bit of help while we're doing this. So the pencil gives you the ability to do, you know, the darks and the shadows and the details and things like that. And it's really up to you how you want to build the intensity of the tone work done with the black pencil. It works fairly well over the brown, I think. Gives it a nice warmth and a depth that it wouldn't have had if it was just over the paper itself, the grey paper. Quick little word on maybe on the materials we're using. Using a black polychromo, which is a waxy pencil, quite expensive as far as pencils go. The brown, of course, is a terracotta. It's a Prismacolor, which is a very soft pencil. Prismacolors are very soft. The white pencil is another Prismacolor, very, very soft. We've got a white pen, which is a Posca paint marker. And we've got like a black one as well. We've also got black brushes. This is a Zig brush pen, so the pigment is in the handle. You squeeze it out through the brush itself. We'll explore that in a sec. I think as far as pigments go with pencil work, unfortunately, art materials are expensive, as you probably have already found out. You don't need me to tell you that. But with art materials, you have to remember something, that the pigments are quite, you know, and the methods for getting these pigments together, they're quite expensive and hard to do. So the more money you pay for an art material, the better the effect you're going to get. That's not me saying that. That's just an undeniable fact. So rather than buying a box of coloured pencils, don't. Just buy one pencil. And when you run out of that pencil, you buy another one. Don't ever buy a box of pencils, you know. Don't ever buy them. We've all had boxes of pencils, but there's some pencils in the box you never use, right? So you can always buy pencils individually. That's what I'm trying to say, and it works out better for you in the end run because you have more control over the color palette that you're using rather than, I haven't used this pencil before, I haven't used that. I mean, within reason, of course. It's always good to experiment with color. That's fine. It's just that these things are expensive. These colors are expensive. Like for a box set of polychromos, for example, 112 colors or something. I haven't looked at the number of pencils they have. Never owned a set, but they're $3 each, so you can work it out from there. It's not a cheap thing. Same is true with all pigments, watercolor, acrylic, oil paint. The more money you spend on the material, on the paint, the more spreadable, or the more long-lasting the product, and also the easier it is to work with. You're not fighting with trying to get color onto the paper all the time. You just have to think back to the days when you were a kid doing those, trying to color in with, in McDonald's, the little paper placemats they give you for coloring in. Use the pencils. Try to use the pencils that McDonald's give you. See how far you get with that. Not very far. You usually tear the paper to shreds. So I've grown up obviously with the Three Stooges. We can always, anytime you feel, if you're feeling a bit down, a bit depressed or something, just go onto YouTube. Just go onto YouTube and Google and search for the Three Stooges. You can't help but laugh. 70 years later, 80 years later, the gags are still funny. It's an incredible legacy that they've left us. Really a beautiful joy and happiness that they've given the world. And, we thank them for it. And I certainly do. I certainly do. Yeah. We must get round to drawing Mo in the next few days. I'm dying to do that because, Mo is like when people talk about the Stooges, it's always Mo. Mo is always there. The others are there, Curly and Shemp and Larry, but Mo is he's the head stooge. So we must draw Mo, and when we get around to him, he'll be the final. I think the final stooge. They had some great. When you're watching it, what I love to do is to think about all of the background characters as well. How well they're delivering their lines and straight-facedly, handling the Stooges' antics and things. Fantastic testament to their abilities as actors and performers. They're really professional. I've seen a few outtakes of the Stooges, and they're very energetic. They do make mistakes. There's not a lot of outtakes, but there are a few. And like all of them, like the Goons and like Abbott Costello and Laurel and Hardy, off camera they loved their characters so much. They really enjoyed performing these gags, and they would ham it up. They would, just on the spur of the moment, for themselves even, just to entertain themselves. There's lots of films of them having fun. Really beautiful attitude, I think, for us to follow and think about. If you try to embody some level of stooge, what's your inner stooge? I think it's a great thing to be. You think about it. Stooges are a great great power to be reckoned with. I feel sorry for people that don't find the Stooges funny. I know there are people that don't find them funny. Some people don't find them funny. I feel sorry for them because I just think they're great. Yeah, we'll leave that there. Okay, let's get into it. Put some more highlights in, I think. Kind of work from this side, perhaps. Be kind of nice. Hey, I was wondering, do we need that dark line there? Maybe not. With this electric razor, we'll try and get back to some of the grey paper over on that left side. Might be a good thing. That way we can hit it with some white pencil and won't be disturbed. Oops, see what I mean? It's white. This actually dropped on the floor the other day, so it tends to break the lead inside the wood when you do that, and makes it a much brittler, much more susceptible to breaking, because it is a very soft lead. So we'll be a bit careful. We'll try to be a bit careful. You can see the toned paper, the grey paper, is really nicely predisposed to creating a three-dimensional effect here. It's nice. It's a slow build-up of dimensional qualities in the drawing. So just with a pencil, a couple of pencils, 3 pencils actually, the trois crayons method, the white, the brown, and the black on a toned paper gives you a lot of ability to draw with 3 dimensions. It's quite nice. I don't know if you've ever drawn with a white pencil on black paper. We should do that too. It's very dramatic, drawing light. Well, that's what we're doing here. We're actually drawing light. We're still drawing tone, we're still drawing shadow, but we are drawing light as well. So it's an important thing to consider with a drawing, is to, look at the volume of the subject you're drawing. Look at what are you trying to say? You're trying to recreate a dimensional subject, a 3-dimensional thing. So you can see it's quite. I'm going to hit it with some more of the white pen in a minute, so just to kick up some of the highlights and make them even stronger. He has got light eyes here, so I have to be careful I don't make them too dark, even though they're in shadow. You respond differently to what you see here and reproduce in a media, like a white pencil like this. You respond differently to what you see in the reference material. You start to sort of discern what is, what are the highlights, the real highlights you can see, and whether it makes sense to do that, to draw that highlight in, or maybe it's not. Maybe you should leave it understated. There's sort of decisions that you make on the fly sometimes. And again, you don't look at this as a colouring in method. I'm not colouring in a face here. I'm just drawing highlights to add different texture. Because when you look at the face, it's a concert of different textures of shiny, matte, rough, smooth. All of these things are able to be beautifully articulated and expressed with a pencil, very simply and quickly, like this. Just chop, 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 done. That's it. You don't need to over draw anything. You don't need to over explain it. Sometimes under explaining is better. So subtlety sometimes speaks louder than exaggeration. So temper your exaggeration in different ways. Never treat the things equally. Don't colour it in. Really get a feel for shiny, smooth, shiny, oily parts of the skin. It's very important to think while you're drawing of what am I saying? What's the pencil telling me? It's telling me here is shiny. Should I put an artificial shape in here of the light? Let's see what it looks like. Yep, okay, well that'll do. That seems to be appropriate. That'll do. It's not all about, it's decisions you make, isn't it? You find things. Nothing's going on in my head, by the way. I don't have anything on in my head. Nothing. There's nothing going on in my head. It's all on the paper, so I'm finding it along with you. I don't know how it will end, to be honest. I have no idea. At this point, you know what? I don't even care, because I'm having fun with what I'm doing now. I'm having fun with this. I'm living in the moment. Isn't it great to be able to do that with a drawing, You don't know how it will end. I don't know how it will end. But I'm finding out along with you. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, fine. I've learned quite a lot and I've enjoyed the process. Enjoyed your company. Well, I don't really have your company, but you know what I mean. I'm enjoying the ability to explain myself in a way untoward. No, in a way I've never done before. So it's like finding your purpose in life, or your purpose for the moment. What's your purpose for the moment? Never mind about your purpose for life. What's your purpose in the moment? Kind of nice. I like that. This is a paint pen with a brush tip, flexible brush tip, which is nice. So let's try to get some little bit of contrasting. Yeah. A little bit of contrast here and there to make it more obvious, right? I know it's quite obvious with the grey paper, but a little bit of help here and there. Usually, highlights work next to darker areas of shadow because they tend to stand out more. The lighter parts stand out better next to darker parts. It sounds very simple. But what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that, never lose a chance for exploring possibilities. I'm going to put a little highlight, a side light on the side, just a little bit to balance this roundness of the face here. I think be kind of appropriate to do that, maybe. Yeah, that kind of. While I'm here, I might. Sorry. I'm going to be losing power in a sec, so I better plug him in. Otherwise, I won't be able to work from reference. That would be silly. So that's I like the side lights here. They're giving me a nice feeling. I'm going to fix the darks in a sec around the eyes, which will help make the eyes pop out even more. So just generally around the pupils, darken those, subtly darken those areas. The word balloon here, I'm just going to help out a little bit. And it's a little bit of cutting in around the letters. So it's not on a grey balloon, but a white balloon, just to make the letters stand out a little bit more. And the pointy brush gives you the chance to be quite flexible and get into these narrow areas as well. Yeah, that should be right, like so. For the moment, I might get there's some stronger highlights in here with the non-flexible nib. Yeah. That'll do. Alright, let's try to get in some black. Ow. I can't move very much. I'm going to try to balance awkwardly. Just want to try to get in a little bit of contrast in the background, so establish a little bit of negative space. I'm not going to come completely up to the contour that I've established with the pencil. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a space around it just to give it a stronger contour. It's like a double exposure, sort of an echo of the contour itself. Let's see if I've tracked white anywhere. No, it seems to be right. Okay. Continue on. Woo woo. Whoop whoop. We all have favourite Shemp moments and Curly moments and Larry and Moe moments, in the films. I think, when they're doing cooking or something mundane, they really do it in a stooge way, which I hate cooking. And if you ever let me near an egg or something, I'll always turn it into a mess. So I really commiserate with that. I'm definitely Curly in a kitchen. I hate cooking. I'd love to do it. I would love to be in a Master Chef. Just be like the opposite. A show of Master Disaster. Master Chef, the disaster. That would be great. I'd love to do that. Just show you what a farce the whole thing is. You're just there to make people hungry. You're making people hungry. That's what you're doing. That's all you're doing. Oh, I forgot. I was going to put some little bit of contrast in the pupils and around the eyes. Just a little bit to help it. Maybe around here. That'll do, I think. Nearly there, folks. Let's go. Well, there we go. There's Coitanly. There's Curly Howard, and this has been Frantz Kantor. And I will catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.